is love? Or if you're Tina Turner, what does love have got to do with it? Yeah, whatever. I don't care. That's Tina Turner, right? Yeah, I thought so. Just making sure. What is love? And it says this, Matthew 5. I'm going to start with verse 38, but that's only because I like it. The actual passage that I want to really preach from starts at 43. But it says, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone wants to sue you, take out your coat and give them your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go a mile, go also the second mile. Give to everyone who begs from you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you." Ouch! That's a pretty potent passage. Tells you basically, yeah, you're not supposed to be a greedy person, Americans. We're not supposed to be greedy. If anybody needs anything and needs to borrow it, give it to them. Help them out. Instead of saying, Now, I can be honest. Can I be honest? Is that okay if I can be honest here today?
Yeah.
Can't think of a better place.
Yeah. If I'm honest, there's a few things in my house that I don't like to share. There's only a few. But there are a few. I have a particular shotgun that nobody touches except me. Nobody. And if you ask to borrow that shotgun, you will get a shotgun. But not that shotgun. That particular gun has special meaning to me and special value to me. And the reason why is because it was my grandfather's shotgun, who then was given to my dad, who like a bonehead sold it, but then got it back, bought it back from the guy years and years and years later when I was growing up, and then he gave it to me. And that shotgun will be given to one of my kids. And hopefully, heaven forbid they actually have kids, but if they do.
One day they will.
I hope not. If one day they do decide to have kids, though, I want them to pass that shotgun on to their kids. And I'm not, you guys know me pretty well. I'm not really a traditional kind of person. I'm not into that kind of stuff. It drives me insane that my wife is. Like, we have beans every single first week of every single year. Usually on January 1st, if you come to my house, there will be a pot of beans somewhere in my house. I guarantee it. Why? Because it's good luck. Well, it ain't worked these last 39 years. Well, thank you. Anyway, fact of the matter is, that particular gun has special value to me, and that is one of the few things that I passed down. Even my own name was my great-grandfather's, my middle name. For those of you who don't know, you're not going to find out today. My middle name was actually my great-grandfather's middle name. And then we all believed that my grandfather's middle name was the same. Turns out it actually wasn't, and he didn't tell anybody. But my dad has the same middle name as me, and then I, of course, have it. So there's at least 3 people in our family that have the same middle name. My kid, nope. It's not that bad. It's actually a good name. It's a good, strong, healthy name. It's just not one that I wanted my kid to have. Now, if for some reason we end up with a 4th kid, and it happens to be a boy, might have that middle name, but might have to. I don't anticipate having a 4th kid, but here it comes. Ready? You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemy and pray for those that persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For he makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. And I'm going to pause there for just a moment because I would like to dwell on this particular passage for a few minutes. And so I'm going to go over it again. It says, you've heard it said that you should love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Now, obviously, he's referencing something, right? It's either the community or another passage or an ideal or whatever the case is. But how many of you, especially some of you here that I actually know your neighbors, but how many of you could say that you love your neighbor? I don't know that I love my neighbors. They're, for the most part, pretty good neighbors. That one and that one are great. Some of my other neighbors I have more difficulty with than others. But as a pastor and as a Christian, I would like to say that I love them. I would love them. But to have that love, like I love you guys, that relationship that's been developed through the years, these past several years, I can honestly say that I wholeheartedly love my congregation. I love y'all. I really do. And when I go to other churches and other events and whatever the case is, they're all the time asking me, when you going to leave Marcel's? Probably never, unless y'all kick me out. I don't plan on going anywhere. Why? Because I love y'all. I really do. And I love this area. I love the Marseilles region. It reminds me of home quite a lot, except for it's cooler, which is better. All you that like the heat, no, I'm a cold weather guy. I got insulation. I'm good. But I love it here. I love my church family. I love those that's around here. And it says here that it says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Well, that's pretty easy to do, right? Those people that drive me absolutely insane, that's easy for me to have a really bad attitude when they're around. There's a few people, I won't name them, but there are a few people that when they are around me, it doesn't take me long to get annoyed. I don't usually get to the point of hating them, but I do get a little annoyed at times. And just their presence can make me annoyed. It's true. If I'm being honest, it really can happen. But Jesus says something kind of interesting here. But I say to you, love your enemies. Now hold them on. Just wait. Jesus, you asking a lot here, buddy. It's easy to love my neighbor. It's easy to hate my enemies. That's easy. Now you're telling me I gotta love them? Wait. Oh, it gets worse. And you want me to pray for them? Come on. For those of you that have kids, sometimes they are your enemy. Sometimes you need to pray for them. I'm not mentioning any names. Come on now. But sometimes you have to remind yourself that even those people that drive you nuts still need Jesus in their life. And they still need to be uplifted in prayer. And I think maybe that's why he says you need to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Now, I'm going to throw an interesting twist on this. What if you showing love to your enemies is the very thing that helps them change? Ooh. Pastor getting real up in here. Oh, it gets worse. Verse 46 says, for if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Now, I'm going to stop there again. He's saying, you ain't doing nothing special if you love people who already love you. Well, that's annoying. But Jesus, I got these people in my life. I got my family. I got my close friends. I got my church. I got all these people that I got to love on. And I got to love them, show them love. I got all these people. He's like, yeah. But you already love them. You ain't doing nothing special. And then I have to remind him of the phone calls I get at 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. But Jesus, remember that? No. Folks, here's the thing. If we're truly going to be Christ-like, we have to love people that we just don't normally want to love. Those people that cut us off in traffic, which, by the way, I thought for sure I was going to see a massive accident, and then then I realized we were in our district. I'm like, oh man, I got to respond to it. Because all I had on was like a pair of jeans and a shirt like this, and I hadn't even take a coat, and it's blowing and snowing like crazy. So here I am driving down 80, heading back from Ottawa. All of a sudden, here comes this truck driver, cruising along he was probably running 55, so he wasn't going crazy fast. Going about 55, and there's this other car in this lane that was coming up on this other truck in front of him. And I said, here it comes. I'm going to see this car get smoked. He's going to pull out right in front of this truck driver, and this truck driver is not going to be able to stop. Sure enough, here they come. Whoop! He hits his brakes, and then I start seeing this. I'm like, oh, here we go. It's time for somebody to go down. Thankfully, it didn't happen, but I just knew it. I thought, oh my goodness, people, you have got to pay attention in traffic. When it is snowing and blowing like that, them truck drivers cannot stop. So make sure you're paying attention. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, you know, Brian, you've preached about something like this a lot. And here it is, right in front of you, getting ready to happen. How are you going to respond? And here's how I responded. Thank God there wasn't an accident right there, because that could have been bad. I know, right? I know. Right. But the fact of the matter is even people like that, I can imagine that truck driver was probably saying some things that wasn't very healthy. I know it wasn't you, it was a flatbed, because I was looking. I said, I hope and pray that these people realize what's going on. But people like that is when you got to make sure you love them, show them love. Or, in my words, you got to love them through it. Here it goes. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers and sisters, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? Now here's the one that everybody gets tripped up on. Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Now my intention is not to dwell on that particular phrase for terribly long, because it does get a little confusing to some people. But I'm wondering if the be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect, isn't tied to the aspect of love. It seems as if the several things right before that's talking about loving your enemies and praying for those that persecute you and loving everybody and all that. It seems to me that it correlates in some way.
Wouldn't that be trying to be Christ-like?
Oh, is that what that might be?
Because nobody's perfect except for God.
So, to be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect, is to do what? In my opinion, it's to love them perfectly, as your heavenly Father loves them. So what does that mean? It means you got to love them through it. It means those people in your life that are driving you nuts, pray for them. Help them. If they're in a bind, try to help them. If they're hurting, patch them up. If they're in need, give them plenty. Love them as your heavenly Father loves them. Hopefully, everybody's going to be smoothed out. Are we in disarray at times? Sure. Some of us are in disarray right now. Some of our families are all messed up. But by golly, you can guarantee one thing. if we're all followers of Christ and we're putting Christ first and we start loving each other through it, we'll make it. We'll make it through it.